Last week, I discussed an important event that those who truly are waiting for our Father and His kingdom must understand. The restoration of Israel is clearly a major event that Christians do not have as their focus at all. And it's important that someone is really explaining this to people, even if there's only a few that it's starting to click for. If you watch my videos, I am very critical in regards to the religion of Christianity. I believe that Christianity is truly a religion of tares. Understand what tares are. Tares are weeds. It is the seed that Satan planted in the world in the midst of the wheat that Yahusha planted. Tares, they look like wheat until they are fully grown. And this is what Christians are. They seem like they're in the truth and that they love our Father, but when you actually read the word and then compare it to what Christians believe, this realization it's hard to walk away from. And I get it that this type of thought and statement, it can be very off-putting to one that is focused only on being a Christian. To them, it can feel blasphemous. I get that. But that's why Christianity is so deceptive. And the first thing that people like to say is that it's not all Christians, so just don't lump us all together. Well, first off, that's the problem in itself. There is no unity of belief in Christianity. There's like 1,000 different flavors of the truth, different denominations, different doctrines, a bunch of different variations of what they call the truth. And that is not reality. That is not scriptural. Yahusha is the truth, the way, and the life. There is only one truth, and it is not debatable. But because of men like Martin Luther, this is what happened to the truth. The truth has become debatable. And Christians, they debate amongst themselves, they fight amongst themselves, but they think that it doesn't matter because as long as they believe in Jesus, they're good to go. Because that's the only thing that matters, even though they don't truly know what they believe in Jesus as. So understand that when I speak against Christianity, it's not just one thing that's the problem. Like if that was the case, it would be directed against a particular denomination, but that's not the case. And listen, for you to really understand this, you're going to have to be one that truly has read the word from the beginning. And you have read the Old Testament, particularly the prophets. The scriptures say to study to show thyself approved. But if you're not reading the whole word, why would you think that you would understand what it is that I'm saying? You will never understand this if you have just read the New Testament Gospels and the letters from Paul. And if that's all you have read, of course you're going to disagree because you've based your understanding off a third of the book. You can't understand the scriptures when starting in the New Testament and making the New Testament the beginning of your foundation. And if this is you, you will always disagree with me because you only read 1/3 of the book and you started in the back. Like someone, they wouldn't understand our way of life today and the grace that we have received and the difference in atonement that we're able to be cleansed by if you only read the Old Testament and you skipped the New Testament. You can't truly understand if you only read parts of the book. And for the majority of Christians, that's the overall problem. Most of them have not read their Bibles, but they assume that what's in the beginning of the book they already understand because they understand the New Testament. And that's very wrong. And that's the beginning of the problem. But let's be clear on why I speak against Christianity. I am against Christianity because it's not about serving our Father, but about our Father serving us. It uses the gift our Father has given the world, and it centers it around themselves and what they receive. It promotes false worship, particularly with an emphasis on satanic holidays that are all about worship of Satan. Holidays like Christmas and Easter, they celebrate and pretend that they are actually worshiping our Messiah. And maybe you're like, well, not all Christians celebrate pagan holidays. Okay, yes, that's true. Because like many of you, when I was a Christian and I woke up to how wicked these pagan holidays were, I did reject the holidays, but I was still a Christian. So I do understand that thought. But what comes next in Christianity is worse because Christians as a majority, they reject the Torah and the commandments. Christians teach that the commandments are done away with, but not all of them, but the Sabbath particularly. And all the ways that our Father laid out as a foundation for living, they reject and say you don't need to do those things anymore because of the Messiah. Christians, they blend Greek philosophy in with the Hebrew scriptures, which allows a great deal of conformity away from the set-apart way that our Father raised his children up in. Christians also follow this belief that they replace Israel and that they are spiritual Israel. And this is such a problem because it does not allow them to really understand what it is our Father is actually doing in the last days. And there is so much more to say, but the biggest problem is their focus. Christians are not kingdom-minded. They are focused on promises our Father has never given them or told them, but they are actually all devoted to these false promises. So they are all focused on going to heaven, even though they were never invited, instead of the actual kingdom that's coming. As a majority, Christians all believe in the rapture. The biggest debate amongst them is whether it's pre, mid, or post-tribulation. But they all believe in the rapture. And in this rapture, they believe that at some point, they are going to be taken from the earth and brought to heaven. Their literal desire is to leave, even though the whole foundational point of this faith is that our Messiah left and that he's coming back. And the thing is that it's what he's coming back for that they are not waiting for. They don't understand the promises and what it is that we're truly living for. And if they do talk about the promises, they immediately go to the new heaven and new earth, and they literally skip over the whole time period of reign that the Messiah that they say they believe in will have on the earth. And then many of these Christians now, who never had a strong foundation from the first place, have taken things a completely wilder step and have said that the kingdom has already come and that we're in Satan's little season. Lies after lies. And it's all because the beginning of the Bible is completely ignored while they believe that they still understand the Bible. It's absolutely crazy. My point is that Christians are not kingdom-minded. And because of this, they will actually miss the kingdom. And that truly bothers me to my core because it's very unnecessary. If we just focused on what the word actually says and stop trying to promote religion, there would be less of a problem. But people are all about saving Christianity and less about protecting the word itself. So again, the reason why there's a huge problem with Christians is because they are not kingdom-minded. They are heavenly bound when they should be kingdom-bound. You see, when we discuss the topic about the end times, the Great Tribulation, and particularly the Millennial Kingdom, it's easy for people to just go to the back of the book in Revelation, read the last 2 or 3 chapters, and feel that they have an understanding of what is to come. And unfortunately, this is what Christians do, which is why there's always conflict. I realize that because Christians don't truly study the Old Testament prophets, when I read all the prophecies spoken by the prophets, it can often throw people off. They say, why do you focus on the Old Testament so much? And so last week, I thoroughly went through many of the prophecies given from the prophets in the Old Testament. But people that have never read the Old Testament, they like to challenge and say, why don't you talk about the New Testament? So to counter this, I want to direct this conversation and bring it to the New Testament. What I want to do is provide clarity by focusing on the words of the Messiah and the apostles that were with him. If we understand the kingdom through his ministry, both by his words and by what his disciples and the others that interacted with him have said, I think that it may help provide understanding on a topic that doesn't seem to be understood. The goal of this ministry is to prepare people for the kingdom. But if you're expecting something completely different, why would you be a part of it? Let me say it like this. If you want to be in the kingdom, you actually must be kingdom-minded. I'm going to talk about it. Let's begin. Okay, so let's understand this first. The understanding of Yah's kingdom is not just something that is spoken of at the end of the Bible. It is something that is a consistent theme in the scriptures throughout the many different books and accounts of Israel. Those that were descendants of Israel have had nothing but expectation of Yah's coming kingdom, and they were expecting of it and anticipated it. If you never knew this, you must understand that this is the complete backdrop to what is occurring in the Gospels. It's a point that completely gets overlooked. This is what they're waiting for. But you see, their understanding of the kingdom, it was not fully understood at their time, because when the Messiah came unto them, they were expecting him to come and immediately take the throne. But this was not what Yahweh intended yet. The kingdom did not come at this time, but even the apostles, they were waiting for it. Like right before Yahusha left, the apostles said, Adonai, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? That's Acts chapter 1, verse 6. I mean, do you really understand that this is what they were all waiting for? And all of that expectation comes from what the prophets spoke of. They were expecting the kingdom to come because the prophets told them it was coming. They weren't expecting to be taken to heaven, though. In fact, the angels that saw Yahusha leave told them the same way he left in the clouds will be the same way he returns. But yet, Christians are not waiting for this return. They are waiting to be taken to heaven. So when he comes back in the clouds, they assume that he's taking them back to heaven. That's not true. So I want to make sure that this is clear. So we're going to understand Yah's kingdom. And we will do this through understanding it from the perspective of the Messiah who was sent. and from the people who interacted with them and expected the fulfillment of these kingdom prophecies to be fulfilled. Messiah understood the importance of Yah's kingdom, obviously. This is why in his Sermon on the Mount, he told us that when we pray to Yahuwah, we are to always pray for his kingdom to come. Listen how he told us to start. In this manner, therefore, pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. It's Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 and 10. He says, your kingdom come. This is what we're all waiting for. I want to emphasize what people seem to forget. Messiah said, pray for the kingdom to come and his will to be done on earth, not as we go to heaven, but as it already is in heaven, on earth. I mean, just a chapter before, the Messiah told us that blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. You see, if the meek are blessed, and the blessing is that they will inherit the earth, why are Christians so stuck on leaving the earth? Anyways, the point I'm making is what Yahusha said to pray for. So let me ask you, when you pray to Yahuwah, are you praying for his kingdom to come? If not, align yourself to his true will. We are his servants, preparing his kingdom. In prayer, after you acknowledge and call out to him, make sure you put his will and his kingdom first. Yahusha is showing us submission. We should be about preparing his kingdom, and we submit to his will. So for us as a family, every night, we pray for Yah's kingdom to come. We do as Yahusha tells us. But if you don't know what this kingdom is and what it will look like, of course, you're not going to understand. People look at this from the perspective of a Christian, but to really understand this, you should understand this from the perspective of the Yahudim apostles who Yahusha was actually speaking to. So let's look at it from the perspective of the Yahudim. They were not expecting the Messiah to be how Yahusha came, one who spoke in parables and did not walk in with a physical sword. They expected him to be the next king of Israel that was going to fulfill all the prophecy that they had been foretold of by the prophets. This is why what we call the Old Testament is so important. The full viewpoint and expectation that the Yahudim had, it was not yet fulfilled. But they all lived during that time with an excitement and expectation of it because they knew and understood the prophecy. Most people today do not understand the kingdom because they ignore the Old Testament. And so their view of the end time is skewed, and they don't truly understand what it is that they have a desire and expectation for. If you don't realize how much the children of Israel expected a king, read it for yourself. It's a detail that people gloss over when reading the Gospels. But when you add this knowledge from the prophecies in the Old Testament, you then can gain an understanding about the expectations for the kingdom of Yah. And from this, it can help you understand better what you're reading. Let me show you this from this example in John. We'll read in John chapter 6. It says, after these things, Yahusha went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude followed him, because they saw his signs, which he performed on those who were diseased. And Yahusha went up on the mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. Now the Passover, feast of the Jews, was near. Then Yahusha lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, where shall we buy bread, that these may eat? But this he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there's a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish, but what are they among so many? Then Yahusha said, make the people sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. And Yahusha took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, and the disciples to those sitting down, and likewise of the fish, as much as they wanted. So when they were filled, he said to his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost. Therefore they gathered them up, and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves which were left over by those who had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the sign that Yahusha did, said, this is truly the prophet who was to come into the world. Yahusha perceived that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king. He departed again to the mountain by himself alone. That's John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. Did you catch the end? Listen, after Yahusha performed this miracle, the multitude was convinced that he was the one sent in the world to fulfill the prophecy. If you read verse 15, it said Yahusha perceived their intentions of making him king. So he withdrew from everyone and went to the mountain. In the other gospel accounts of this event, it says he went to the mountains to pray. Matthew 14:23 says, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. You see, the people were looking to him to be their next leader. They wanted him to be the next Moses or the next King David. They wanted him to redeem them in the way they expected the prophecy to be fulfilled. But this was not yet Father's plan. With the love Yahusha had for his people, the temptation must have been great for him to take the kingdom now and redeem the people. This is what the people were looking for. He perceived that they wanted to make him king. Because of this, we see him withdrawing from everyone and going to pray privately. People were looking for him to move outside of the purpose he was intended for at that time. So he went and prayed. After he withdrew, he came back with more power. He walked on water. He was walking in power, proving without a shadow of a doubt who he was. But they, because of their expectation, were expecting him to be king at that time. Please note, at no time were they expecting that everyone was leaving to go live in heaven. They were waiting for the kingdom on earth. That's what I want you to get here. They were waiting for the prophecy about the kingdom being restored on earth. Here's something else to show you. When Yahusha gave more clarity to disciples when they were trying to understand who can be saved, this is what he said. Then Yahusha said to his disciples, assuredly, I say to you that it's hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And again, I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of Elohim. When his disciples heard it, they were greatly astonished, saying, who then can be saved? But Yahusha looked at them and said to them, with men this is impossible. With Elohim, all things are possible. Then Peter answered and said to him, see, we have left all and followed you. Therefore, what shall we have? So Yahusha said to them, assuredly, I say to you, that in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. Matthew chapter 19, verses 23 through 30. Notice, he knows that many of you are going to have to leave your houses, your brothers, your sisters, fathers, mothers, wives, children for him. Because you serve him and you believe in him, you're going to have to forsake these people that do not want to serve him and believe in him. Your condition and your situation right now is prophesied by Yahusha in the word. It's right there. But what I just read here, he's giving more clarity about the kingdom. And for the first time, really, we have seen Yahusha providing us with more understanding of what to expect in the kingdom. The disciples would sit with him, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. He tells us that everyone who has left all that they had in regard to themselves behind, for his name's sake, will receive it back 100-fold and inherit eternal life, which is knowing the Father. This is a wonderful promise, and by trying to understand him, we're gaining more insight to Yah's kingdom and our promises. This has nothing to do with heaven. Again, if you read the Bible from the right perspective, you can understand exactly what the apostles and those who believe the Messiah were expecting. Again, none of it had to do with going to heaven. Look at what happened when the apostles' mom came to Yahusha. Yahusha, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death, and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify. And the third day he will rise again. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. And he said to her, what do you wish? She said to him, grant that these 2 sons of mine sit on one on your right hand and the other on the left in your kingdom. But Yahusha answered and said, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They said to him, we are able. So he said to them, you will indeed drink my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I'm baptized with, but to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those whom it is prepared by my Father. Matthew chapter 20, verses 17 through 34. Understand what happened here. The mother of Zebedee's sons was the mother of James and John, the disciples. That's why the other 10 were displeased with them. You see, to be seated at the king's right hand was to take the position of most prominence, and the person on the left ranked just below that. They were trying to position themselves for the place of position in his kingdom. Even the disciples who walked with Yahusha made mistakes and didn't understand clearly at times. So you shouldn't expect that you'll perfectly understand all and be a perfect follower. The key is that no matter what, they still gave him the priority and rule and followed him and obeyed, though there were things that they didn't understand. But they were expecting and preparing for the kingdom, and that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. Now Yahusha said to them, whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your servant. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. He was explaining that the measure of greatness is not position, power, or prestige. It's service. It's not about us, but about serving our Father. This is where many people go wrong today, particularly pastors and all these fake leaders that want to be some kind of leader in the society right now. Yes, they want to serve, but many of them also do it so they can seek powers of position and influence and prestige. It should never be about that. But do you see that this was what was on their minds? They were trying to get ready for Yahusha to reign as king on the earth. At no point in time was any of them focused on going to heaven. Christianity is about a completely different faith than what the scriptures are about. I'm trying to drill this point home. A big part of the issue that people have is that they don't understand what Yahusha was saying in some of these scriptures. I want to deal with one of the major rebuttals I hear when I'm trying to explain the difference in Christianity versus the way. People think that they're going to heaven because of confusion based on what Yahusha has said in John chapter 14. The confusion comes from this part of what he says. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in Yahuwah, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Thomas said to him, Adonai, we do not know where you're going. How can we know the way? Yahusha said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John chapter 14, verses 1 through 6. And this is where a lot of the confusion comes from, so let's just cover that right there. Yahusha told us to believe in him. He said he's going to prepare a place for us. And this is extremely comforting to know. He didn't leave us and have us wondering would he be coming back to take care of us. He told us he's preparing a place for us. And so I'm happy and excited for it. The problem is what people think about with this mansion. Many people like to say, I might not have a mansion on earth, but I will have a mansion in heaven. The problem with that is that the mansion is not for heaven. I bring the scripture up because it brings confusion for people and it needs to be clarified. People use this and believe that he's talking about preparing a place for us in heaven. That's not what he said. He said he's preparing a place for us and he will come again. He did not say he's preparing a place for us in heaven. He said he will come again and receive us to himself, and that where he is, we will be. And this is where the confusion is. People don't know where he's going to be when he comes back. They don't have a clue. And so if you don't know what he's going to be doing, why would you be ready for it or be a part of it? And that's the main point that I'm trying to bring clarity to right now. What he is talking about here comes 1,000 years after his reign. He is preparing a place for us. It's new. When this is fulfilled, this is the same time when we see Yah bring down a new heaven and new earth. This is what he's preparing for us. And this does not come at the millennial kingdom, according to Revelation chapter 20 and 21, but right after the millennial reign at Judgment Day. It is important to understand this and not get confused by it. So many people skip the millennial reign and they just jump to the new heaven and the new earth. And when this is done, you're missing a great deal of prophecy and events. When I speak to people and they talk about the end times, they say, yeah, I know he's bringing a new heaven and a new earth. The timeline with people is completely skewed. They skip the millennial kingdom and they move right to the new heaven and a new earth. And that's why nobody really understands what we're to be waiting for. But in regards to this, this is what's important. What's important is that he is preparing a place for us to all dwell. He says he will come again and receive us. It's important that you never forget that he is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to Father except through him. So if someone presents another way to make it to our Father without him, they are taking you to Satan. But the new heaven and the new earth comes after the millennial kingdom. So there's nothing wrong with expecting the new heaven and the new earth, but you have a 1,000-year reign that happens before that, which is what you should be expecting right now. You can't just ignore all that, because this is all that we're waiting for. This is the kingdom. We're waiting for Yahusha to reign as king for 1,000 years. The mansions come after the 1,000-year reign. That's what's new. That's what he's preparing now for us in heaven. But he's bringing it down. That's why it's a new heaven and a new earth, a new place that he's preparing for us now. I hope that brings clarity to people. I hope dots are connecting. I'm going to go over 2 more situations and just close this out. Let's continue. Then they led Yahusha from Caiaphas to Praetorium, and it was early morning. But they themselves did not go into the Praetorium, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate then went out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring about this man?" They answered and said to him, "If he were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him up to you." Then Pilate said to them, "You take him and judge him according to your law." Therefore the Jews said to him, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death, that the saying of Yahusha might be fulfilled which he spoke, signifying by what death he would die." Then Pilate entered the Praetorium again, called Yahusha and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Yahusha answered and said, "Are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me?" Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done?" Yahusha answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight, so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate therefore said to him, "Are you a king then?" Yahusha answered, "You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born, and for this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." That's John chapter 18, verses 28 through 38. Do you understand really that Yahusha is our king? His kingdom is not of this world. And so if you live in the truth, you understand that he is our king. But for some reason, Christians say that they're waiting for him to come back, but they don't understand anything about this kingdom that we're waiting for. Everyone keeps worrying about the rapture and going up to heaven. But if you really love him and you really know him, you should be waiting for him to come be your king on earth. This is the whole belief. And so you have to understand that Christianity, what they're preparing for, is something completely different, because the true believers are waiting for the Messiah to come and be king. He's coming to be king. Now, listen. So Yahusha, he was crucified, but 3 days later, he resurrected, and he presented himself to his followers. I went over this in the last part, but I want to make sure I touch it again. It says, "Now behold, 2 of them were traveling that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. So it was, while they conversed and reasoned, that Yahusha himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were restrained so that they did not know him. And he said to them, 'What kind of conversation is this that you have with one another as you walk and are sad?' Then the one whose name was Cleophas answered and said to him, 'Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem? And have you not known the things which happened there in these days?' And he said to them, 'What things?' So they said to him, 'The things concerning Yahusha of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified. But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel.'" Luke chapter 24, verses 13 through 21. Do you see this? If you do not understand the importance of this, you do not understand what awaits us as these end-time prophecies unfold today. They were hoping that he was going to redeem Israel. All those prophecies in the Old Testament, the prophecies of rejoining Judah and Israel and restoring the kingdom, this was exactly what those who follow Messiah were expecting for him to do. But do you know that people today that follow modern-day Israel as a nation believe that this prophecy was already fulfilled? So if this part of the prophecy was fulfilled, who do you think that the king that will reign over this kingdom will be?
So what preparations are actually being made right now to build the third temple?
There are actually quite a few, and it just shows that God is giving the Jewish people kind of signs or an expectation that it's time for the soon coming Messiah. Scholars that I've spoken to talk about how the building of this next temple is really going to bring peace to Israel and to bring safety from all her enemies. And so in that way, I can see that any maybe leader that would be raised up or somebody that would be able to bring the nations together, especially those who might align with Israel, that there might be some agreement that the temple could exist there and this person could be set up in the temple.
You see, it's important to understand who you believe is fulfilling these prophecies and who you assign to these prophecies, because when you follow the mainstream agenda, you are being led right into the arms of the beast. And this will not end until you have accepted his mark. If all these people are expecting to be raptured because they believe that there's nothing left on the biblical timeline for the rapture to occur, because Israel has already returned to the land, you have to understand what they are going to be steered into once the tribulation starts. Many people die, many other people are severely struggling, and they don't know what they believe. These people are going to be led into believing in a false Messiah. That's what's coming. In real Bible prophecy, Yahuwah is going to redeem Israel and bring them back from where he scattered them in the world. And it is truly important that if you truly love the God of Israel, Yahuwah, that you truly attach to his will and remove those fleshly influences that make you sum this all up by skin color. We are moving to the restoration of Israel. This is the prophecy that we are walking into fulfillment of. This is the kingdom that we are waiting for. Again, like I showed earlier, even the apostles who walked with Messiah directly were expecting him to restore the kingdom of Israel. But it was not at the time yet. But the angels, they left with the promise of what is to come. What we just went through is you understanding the promise of what is to come from the point in time when Messiah walked the earth. This is what he prepared us for. This is what he taught us. His ministry contains so much knowledge and understanding of how Yah truly desired us and how we were to be. He brought clarifications in the law and displayed that it's not just about following the commandments, but what's in our hearts. But he did not abolish the Torah. He came and fulfilled all prophecy foretold of him in order that we would all know that he was the Messiah sent to Israel, so that all can know with assurance that he is our Redeemer. Yahuwah gave all that prophecy before his coming as a huge puzzle that would later be put together, so that we all saw his answer to the problem we have had all since the sin of Adam. And now that we understand the solution, we believe in him and accept him, we can now be redeemed and acceptable by him, and that's wonderful. People of all tribes, tongues, and nations can now be received by Yahuwah if they come to him through Yahusha. And this is the good news. But now that this is understood, being that the birth pangs are so strong in this world and continuous, we know what's coming next. And it's up to us who desire to be truly found in his kingdom to understand the promise and be ready to be a part of it and brought into it. The Christian church has sold a lie about everyone going to heaven. So many people love to say that they're not attached to the Roman Catholic Church. But what people don't recognize is that this thought about going to heaven is completely something that comes from the Roman Catholic Church. You will not read the scriptures and see anywhere that our Father has promised us to go to heaven. We are waiting for our Messiah to come back and reign. Last week, I thoroughly went over the prophecies that the apostles heard and what they were waiting for. This is why many of them rejected Yahusha, because they expected another king to come, bring them back to greatness. But Yahuwah was dealing with sin first. Christians have not been properly taught about the prophecies of Messiah and what it is that we're waiting for. Christians are waiting for falsehoods that have nothing to do with the Bible, but just indoctrination from the Christian church. This is why Christians are, in fact, tares, and they are waiting for falsehoods that they're going to be taken down by. I don't call Christians tares to insult them. I call them tares to bring alarm to you so that you are not a part of them. This is not a bashing of Christians. This is a bashing of lies. And I'm sorry to tell you that these lies are held under the banner of this label of Christianity. This is the label. If you truly try to be kingdom-minded and turn to our Father in spirit and in truth, you will not allow yourself to be taken down with these lies. It comes with a complete readjustment of expectations. Stop trying to go to heaven, because heaven is not what is promised. I recently did a video talking about the resting place that we go to when we die, which is called Abraham's bosom. I don't think that's called heaven, but whatever it is, that's not the goal. When you die, you should be assured that you'll be comforted and taken care of. But while you are alive, you should be waiting for the coming kingdom to come. That should be your focus as a believer. Your kingdom come is how Messiah told us to pray. So you must refocus and turn to the truth and reject falsehoods and lies. The kingdom is coming, And the remnant, the true remnant, is preparing for it. It's going to happen whether you are ready for it or not. It is happening. The only question is, will you be a part of it? Put down your pride. Go back to the scriptures and read them from the beginning without the indoctrination, and truly understand what it is our Father has said and declared. These are our times. This is the most important point of your life. Will you be in the kingdom, or are you a tear set to be burned in the fire? The answer to that, only you and Yahuwah know. But if you focus on Yah right now and make his kingdom your priority and realign your expectations, you will be doing yourself much good rather than following lies and waiting for a false rapture that will lead you to judgment. So please, wake up and turn to the truth, because I'm sure by now that you should see that the kingdom of Yahuwah is truly at hand. Be ready for it and be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share this with others. I hope this truly provides clarity on this subject. Share this with whoever you think needs to hear it. If you have not already done so, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Yah willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. I would like to sincerely thank all those who support this ministry. I'm very grateful for your love and your support. You truly make a difference in this ministry and assist me greatly with putting these messages together. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching, everyone. I love you all.